From the foreign ministry says U.S. aids Saddam's use of CW against Iran in the 80s.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Then resorts to military force over bogus chemical weapons allegations, first in 2000 and now in Syria, 2003, and in Syria. Not even 2 decades after 9/11, U.S. military fighting on same side as Al-Qaeda and ISIS in Yemen and Syria. Time to stop the hype and the cover-ups. Mark Steyn, best-selling author, Fox News contributor as well, joins us right now. So that's interesting. The Iranians are saying we are a partner of ISIS.
Right. This is the confusion of it, and I think that's what was great about last night, in that how Syria shakes out in 3-5 years' time, we can't know, and we should be cautious about that after what's happened in Libya and Iraq and Afghanistan and elsewhere. But simply as a response to a provocation. I mean, basically, Assad said the world hasn't changed. For the last 8 years, I've been able to kill my own people and get away with it. They put dead babies on the world's TV screens, and Trump said, enough of this. And that's a change. That's a real Russian reset button. That's a reset button for the world.
Some people have said that the president took a different stance than folks anticipated. He's focused on ISIS in the Middle East, not necessarily issues like this. What does this tell you about how President Trump is going to approach the world?
Well, I think it shows that he responds to things. He's very nimble, and he's able to respond to things. The disgusting aspect of the last 8 years is that Obama mistook the sidelines for the moral high ground. So he would use all this lofty rhetoric about red lines, and he would stand there, and there'd be people killing each other, slaughtering each other, dead babies, and he'd stand there with his hand on his hip giving a speech, and he stripped words of their meaning. And Trump isn't as articulate, he isn't as polished, but his words have meaning. And to do that while he's having dinner with the Chinese, I mean, you said, did he tell him over the salad bowl? As I understand it, he told him over the creme brulee or the tiramisu. How cool is that, to actually make the Chinese Politburo sit through a night of American targeted bombing?
That's right.
Do you consider this a victory for him?
Oh yes, I think so. I mean, I don't want to be, because I think he's accomplished certain things. He sent a message to the Chinese as they're sitting across the dinner table from him. He sent a message to Putin, and thereby, incidentally, also made all this stupid investigations that the Senate and the House are chasing their tails in look absolutely ridiculous. You know, he's picked a fight with Putin at a time when Congress has spent and Susan Rice has spent a year investigating whether he's Putin's stooge. How stupid do they look?
Well, hold on a second, Mark, because there's some online who are suggesting the reason we called the Russians a half an hour early was to give them a heads up to move their military and their people and their assets, was because we're colluding. This administration still colluding with the Russians. That's why we gave them a 30-minute notice.
I don't think so, and you know that, Pete. I mean, the most effective move that's happened in the Middle East in the last couple of years is that Assad was supposed to be dead. History. He was gone. He was out, and Putin stepped in, put him back on his throne.
Along with Iran.
And basically made Russia a player again in the Middle East. And
just as his puppet.
Yeah, just as his puppet. And Trump has basically said, I don't care. I don't care if he's your puppet. If he's killing kids, he's not going to do it on my watch.
So, Mark, how are foreign capitals, especially our enemies, Moscow, elsewhere, how they're waking up this morning? Obviously, it's already midday over there. What's their calculation, their next step?
Well, I think they understand that this is really last night was inauguration day, that America is back in the world. Now, not ineffectively. I mean, what we have to be careful about here is whether the tactical ruthlessness of last night is matched with strategic clarity, which hasn't been the case in Afghanistan and Iraq. But accepting that Trump doesn't want to get mired in pointless civil wars, I think this keeps America's enemies on its toes and trying to figure out what it is they have to do
Mark,
next.
the Turkish deputy prime minister said this is a positive, but it should be completed. I guess insinuating that it's not completed yet.
No.
What do we need to do to complete it?
Well, I think this is where, of course, like everything in the Middle East, it all gets incredibly complicated. In Libya, America made things worse, catastrophically worse. And we do not want to implode another regime. I'm not sure that Syria can be preserved, and I think what you probably need is a Sunni, some kind of Sunni statelet on the Syria-Iraq border, but preserving essentially Assad structures without this horrible butcher, barbarous family. They should be gone. He was an ophthalmologist. Yeah. I can't even say.
The eye doctor.
Meanwhile,
an eye doctor. That's in American.
Right.
In London, and I think, hereditary dictatorships are the worst on the planet. That's true in North Korea. It's true in Syria. I'm not a believer in hereditary dictatorships.
most ophthalmologists don't put sarin gas in their citizens' eyes.
Most don't.
No.
Do you think there's been some confusion on the part of Mr. Assad over there? Because I think it was last week, our Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, said, well, it looks like Assad's here to stay.
Right.
Donald Trump, when he was out campaigning as president, said, you know, I don't know if we get involved in Syria. But 77 days into his administration, President Trump said, you know what? I'm flexible, and I've got to change my point of view.
Well, I also don't think he's a cynical man. I believe he was genuinely moved by those pictures of dead babies and dead children. I think he takes that kind of thing seriously. And I do believe that one of the ugly features of the modern world is that we can now see everything that's going on, and yet we normalize these men so that this butcher's ambassador is going to be eating in swank New York restaurants today, the guy at the UN, as if he's no different from the Swedish ambassador or the Slovene ambassador. And that's got to stop. And it doesn't mean you've got to go and get mired in Syrian nation building, but it does mean that if you're just some little rinky-dink, no-account dictator with 6 air bases, and you catch our eye for the wrong reason, we'll take out those air bases.
So what does Nikki Haley need to say to those ambassadors?
Well, I think Nikki Haley should stop. I think, generally speaking, the civilized world should stop normalizing people. And I put Putin in that camp, too. This is a way of saying to Putin, you want to have dinner with this guy, you want to treat Assad as if he's no different from the Prime Minister of Norway. There's a price to be paid for that.
It's a world where moral relativism is pervasive across every spectrum. And you're saying you just got to stop that and call a spade when you're a tin-tot big...
Yeah, and it doesn't mean you spend 15 years running around another Afghanistan, but it does mean you say, we're responsible for 40% of the world's military spending. We're not going to let a pipsqueak put dead children all over the TV screens of the world without consequences.
All right. Mark Steyn, thank you very much.
Steve.
Great to have you in the studio today.
Thank you.